We begin the Chok Yisrael for Parshas Pkudei, Yom Chamishi, Day 5, Be'ezras Hashem Yisbach. And we're talking about the 4 rows of precious gems on the Choshen. So Vatur Hasheni, the second row, was Neifech, consisted of a ruby, sapphire, v'yaloin, and the diamond. Vatur Hashlishi, the second row, Leshem, amber, shvo, obsidian, v'achlama, amethyst. And let's say the Targum Siddur Tinyanid is Margadin, Shavziz, V'sivalom, V'siddur Trisa, Kankire, Tarkia, V'ein Igla. Vatur Avi, Tarshish, topaz, shoham, onyx, v'yoshpe, and beryl. Musabai, surrounded with the mishpatzos zahav, with the sockets of gold, b'miliyuasam, which were filled up with these precious gems. V'sidra v'yakra miyama v'urla ufantire mishaka miramsa dedav b'ashlamusan. V'avonim, these stones, al shmois b'nei Yisrael heina, each one had a name of the Shvatim, Shteim Esrei, 12 of them al shmoisam, pituchei chaisim, engraved, like with clear letters, like with a signet ring. This was done with the miraculous shamir. Ish al shmai, everyone with his name, l'shneim aser shoy, for the 12 tribes. V'avnaya al shmas b'nei Yisrael inon tarta asrei al shmoasan, ksav meforish ki gloif de iska, var al shmei l'srei aser shiftin. Vayasu al achoshen, and they made on the breastplate sharsharais, chains, gavlus, attached to its borders. Maisei avos, it was twisted chains of zohav tor, of pure gold. Va'avadu al chushna tikin sachamon ovad gidiloi de dahav dechei, of pure gold. And now it continues with Shlomo HaMelech after they brought the Aron of Hashem into the Beis HaMikdash that was built by Shlomo. Vayhi b'tzeitza kahanim in HaKodesh, when the Kahanim left the holy, the onon moleyes Beis Hashem, and the cloud of Hashem's presence filled the house of Hashem. V'lo yachlu HaKahanim lamoid l'sharis, and the Kahanim could not stand to minister mipnei ha'onim, because of the cloud. Ki molei chvoid Hashem, for the glory of Hashem filled as Beis Hashem. Ozam Hashem, Ozam Shlomo. Shlomo said with great joy that Hashem agreed, he was happy with the building of the temple, and he agreed to allow his Shechina to reside there. Ozam Shlomo Hashem Amar Lishkoin Ba'arofel. Hashem has said that he would dwell in a dark mist of cloud, because it says Kiba Onan Eira ala Kapairis. So therefore Shlomo HaMelech rejoiced. Bano Banisi, Shlomo HaMelech said, I built Beis Volach. He said to Hashem, I built a house of residence for you. Machon l'shivtcha, a place for your dwelling, Olamim, forever. Vayasev HaMelech, now since Shlomo HaMelech did Hashem's mitzvah, when you do Hashem's mitzvah, it creates an Eis Ratzon. Ani svilasi l'cha Hashem Eis Ratzon. It was therefore a mesugel time, a proper time to give Klal Yisrael a bracha. Vayasem HaMelech es panav, the king turned his face. Vayavorech es kol Kal Yisrael, and he blessed all of the assemblage of Yisrael. V'kol Kal Yisrael oimid, and everyone stood to accept the blessing. Says Shlomo HaMelech in his wisdom, Nefesh Ra, an evil soul, Ivsara, always lusts for evil. Lo yilchan be'einav re'eyu. He doesn't see favor for his friend, because he's always very self-centered. So his friend, he doesn't envision good for his friend. His mind is wrapped around his desires and his lusts for himself. Ba'anosh leitz, when the scoffer gets punished, yechkam pesi. The simple person becomes wise because he says, oh, you see what happens when somebody drives under influence? He gets killed in a crash. You see what happens if somebody stays up late all the time? He gets sick. However, the chacham doesn't need such drama. The haskel chacham, the wisdom of the tzaddik, is that the wisdom of the wise man is that he takes advice, he listens to musar, yikach das, he gathers knowledge, and he doesn't need to see it in such a dramatic way. He gets smart. As a chacham arayas hanoiled, he gets smart just by gathering in the advice and the musar of his teachers and experienced people. Now, maskil tzaddik here, tzaddik Rashi says is referring to the tzaddikai shel olam. It's referring to Hashem. Maskil tzaddik, Hashem looks lebeis Rasha, at the house of the wicked, like at the house of Haman, the house of Amalek. Rashi says, misalef risham lara, and he rids the wicked and he perverts their ways towards evil. Oitem oznoi mizakas dol, if a person closes his ear from the screams of the needy, and he makes himself, what we say in Yiddish, nicht wissendig, as if he doesn't hear it, and he doesn't heed the cries of those that are in need, so when he's in trouble and he will call out, v'lo ye'an, and no one will answer him. Matan baseiser yichba'of, a gift done in secret, without embarrassing the recipient, has the power to subdue Hashem's anger. V'shoichad b'chek, and a bribery, so to speak, to Hashem, because when you give tzedakah, milva Hashem choinen dal, it's like giving a loan to Hashem when you're grace the needy. So v'shoichad b'chek, a bribe that's given from the bosom without people seeing and embarrassing the poor person, chemo aza, has the power to squelch even fierce wrath. And now, our adventure for today is the 9th perek of Masechtas Menachos. Menachos, of course, we know, speaks about meal offerings. We know that many of the korbanos are accompanied by nisachim. Now, nisachim consists of both a meal offering and libations. So starts off the perek, Shtei midos shel yavesh hayu b'mikdash. There were 2 dry measures in the mikdash, isaron. One is a tenth. This tenth is the amount used for all the menachos. V'chatzi isaron, and a half of isaron, which was used for the minchas chabitin of the kohen gadol. Reb Meir Omer isaron v'chatzi isaron. There was 2 types of isaron, 2 types of tenth measures, and 1/2 isaron. Now, this was because, according to Reb Meir, there was an isaron which was known as mechuka. It was a level isaron. And then there was an isaron that was gedusha. It was only an isaron when it was piled up. So the isaron mechuka contained an isaron when it was leveled. The isaron gedusha was a little bit more shallow, and it contained the isaron only when it was heaped. Normally they used the isaron gedusha because it was enough for the carbon to have it heaped. However, the minchas chabitin of the kohen gadol, that they had to divide it in half, it would be hard to divide it in half because the heap would spill. So then they used an isaron mechuka, according to a mayor, and then they divided it in half for the morning and half for the afternoon. Isaron me'ayim mishamish, and now the Mishnah clarifies what was the use. Isaron me'ayim mishamish, shabayayim maydei l'kol hamenachos. For it they would measure all the meal offerings. Lo yayim maydei lo b'shel shloisha l'par. The nesachim of a cow needed 3 isaron, but they didn't have a measuring of 3 isaron. They did 3 times the isaron. V'loi b'shel shnayim la'ayil, nor did they have a measure of 2 yisaron for the ayil. Elamai d'dayin esrainis. They did it two times with the yisaron for the ram, and 3 times for the cow. Chatzi yisaron me'al yamishamish. What did they use the half yisaron for? That they used Sheboya Yemoideit Chavite Kain Gadol, the griddle offering of the Kain Gadol. Mechze Babayker, half was done in the morning, or Mechze Bein Arbaim, and half was done in the afternoon. And now we'll talk about the measuring vessels for liquid measure. Sheva Midai Shalach Oya B'Mikdash. There were 7 measuring vessels of liquid in the Mikdash. A hin is 12 lug. Actually, the only time they used a hin was Moshe Rabbeinu used a full hin for the Shemen HaMishka, for the anointing oil. And no, they never used a hin otherwise. The Chatzi hin, a half a hin, or Shlishas hin, a third of a hin, or Revius hin, a quarter of a hin. Loig, which is a 1/12 of a hin. The Chatzi loig, a half a lug, or Revius lug, and a quarter of a lug. Rabbi Elazar Tzadok says they didn't need all these different measuring vessels. They made a hin measuring vessel, and in it they made notches where it was measured a half a hin, a third of a hin. Rabbi Elazar Tzadok, there were like teeth in the hin, markings, so that you would see ad kan lapar until here for a par, because a par was a chatzi hin, and therefore until here for a par, and a ayil was a shlishas ayin, and a keves was a revius ayin. Ad kan la par, ad kan la ayil, ad kan la keves. Reb Shimon says no, they didn't have a hin, because only Moshe Rabbeinu used the full hin for the Shemesh and Mishcha, and after that it was hidden. So then, because after Moshe Rabbeinu, they didn't need a hin. There was still 7. There was a measure of a lug and a half. From that they measured the mincha of the Kohen Gadol, loig umechza babayker, a lug and a half of oil in the morning, the loig umechza bein arbaim. The Tanna Kama says they used the lug and the chatzi lug. And here he said no, they had a lug and a half measuring vessel. Revius ma'hoisa mishameshes. What did they use the quarter of a lug measuring vessel for? Well, first of all, revius mayim lamatzayra. That was for the quarter of a lug of water used for in the mitzayra purification. In one of the first stages of the purification of the biblical leper is they took 2 birds and they took mayim chayim, which is halacha that we learned that it's a revius of mayim, and they would shech the bird and the blood would fall into that revius mayim, revius shemen lenazir, and the quarter of a lug oil for the Nazir. We know that the Nazir, his carbon was accompanied by 20 loaves, and the amount that they used for those 20 lugs was a quarter of a lug of oil. Chatzi lug mehoyim mishamish. What did they use the half lug for? Chatzi lug mayim lasaita. They took from the kier a half a lug of water for the saita, where they mixed in the Shem Hashem and the earth from the Kodesh under the tile, the chatzi loig shemen la taida, and a half a loig of oil for the taida. The taida Thanksgiving offering was accompanied by 40 loaves. 30 of them were matzah, were unleavened, which were accompanied with a half a loig of oil. And the loig was for all the meal offerings. Afilu mincha shel shishim isaron. Even a mincha of 60 isaron, they did it 60 times, 60 like of shemen. Nice and shishim like. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov and Rabbi Elazar disagrees. Rabbi Elazar says that if it was a mincha of 60, they still used only 1 leg of oil. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, afilu mincha shel shishim isaron, ein la luga only had 1 lug of oil. Shenema la for a mincha, no matter how big, the like shemen. Shisha lapar, there was 6 lug, in other words, a half a hin for a bull. Arba la'ayil, 4 for an ayil, that's a third of a hin. And shloisha lakeves, 3 for a keves, that's a quarter. Shloisha umechza la, they used 3.5 for the menorah, so they used 3.5 for the menorah. Why? Because each lamp contained a chatzi lug. There were 7 lamps, so that's 3.5 mechatzi lug l'chol ner, a half a lug for each lamp. Now here the Mishnah tells us the flour that was mixed with oil was allowed to be mixed if it had the same consistency. So the proportion, a par had 6 lug of oil and 3 isaron of flour. So therefore it was a ratio of 2 to 1. 6 lug of oil to 3 isaron of flour. So that's a ratio of 2 to 1. The same thing was true with the ram. The ram was 4 lug of oil to 2 isaron of flour. So again, that's a ratio of 2 to 1. So therefore, ma'ar v'niskei parim b'niskei elim, you could mix the meal offering of the bull with the meal offering of the ram, or niskei kvasim b'niskei kvasim, or the meal offering of a sheep together with other meal offerings of sheep, and shel yachid b'shel tzibur, an individual with the communal, shel yoim b'shel amish, today's with yesterday's, aval ein ma'ar v'niskei kvasim b'niskei parim ve'elim, because the meal offering of the kvasim had a different proportion. It was 3 lug to 1 isaron. It was a very light batter. Because it was 3 lug, it was a ratio of 3 to 1. So therefore, however, v'im blalon, if they were pre-mixed, so they were pre-mixed beforehand, and then they got mixed up, ksherim, but if they got mixed up before they were mixed, then puzzle, then it's no good. Hakeves, haboim omer, the ram that came with the omer, afal pishim in chosay kfuloi, even though it says that the sa'orim, the barley, that was used for the minchas ha'omer on the 16th of Nisan, was not 1 isaron, but it was 2 isaron. That's we learn out from a pasuk. It was double. Lo yoyin esachav kfulin. The amount of oil and wine were not double, but rather it was the regular amount of oil for 1 isaron. Kol hamidah shehaya b'mikdash, all the measuring vessels in the mikdash hayu nigdashos. They were heaped. They were, like we said, that they were the proper amount only after they were heaped. Chutz mishal kohen gadol. Remember, we said that the kohen gadol was mechuka, which they divided half in the morning and half in the afternoon. Shaya gedusha l'seicha, its heap was included in the amount, so that it was level, so that when they divided it in half, they didn't spill anything. Midas halach, the liquid measures, beirutzeyen kodesh, that which flows over is also holy, because the rim was holy. Or midas hayavesh, dry measure, beirutzeyen chol, the overflow is not holy because the rim was not sanctified. Rabbi Akiva midas halach kodesh, the liquid measure is holy. Rabbi Akiva says the dry measure, it didn't get sanctified in a klei sharis. That didn't sanctify it. So midas halach kodesh, the liquid measure is holy. Lefika, the liquid measure, the vessel is holy. Lefikach beritzein kodesh, and therefore the overflow is holy. But midas hayavesh chel. But the Rabbi Kiva holds that the dry measure vessels were not consecrated. Lefikach beritzein chel, and therefore the overflow is not sanctified. It's only what was needed that was sanctified. Rabbi Yossi Amaloi Mishum said that's not the difference between liquid and solid. The difference is that a liquid, it gets mixed up, and what's outside at one time gets inside. So Rabbi Yossi Amaloi Mishum Zeh Shalach Nekar. The reason is the liquid mixes with the liquid in the vessel, so it all becomes commingled, so it all becomes holy. But vayavesh enenekar, dry doesn't become mixed, so what was on top stays on top, so therefore that's not sanctified. Kol karbanos hatzibur vayachid, all communal offerings and individual offerings, tu'unin nisachim, need to be accompanied by a libation which consists of a mincha and wine, chutz min ha-bechor, except for the firstborn, v'maisa, the maisa behema, v'pesach, and the korban pesach, v'achatas v'oshim, and the sin offering and the guilt offering. Ela shechatos shel mitzayra, but the sin offering of the biblical leper, v'hashama, and the guilt offering, that is an exception. It's tunin nisachim. It does need libations. Kol karbanos hatzibur, all communal karbanos, ein b'hem smicha. We don't lean on the animal between the horn with all our might. Chutz min ha'para ba'al kol ha'mitzvahs, except for the bull that comes for all mitzvahs. That's what we call the parhelim davar shel tzibur, which they bring if Bezdin issued an erroneous psak and Klal Yisrael sinned with a sin that would normally carry a penalty of koros. So, like for example, let's say they said that a certain type of chalev or dam was not forbidden, and that's an Issachar, and the majority of Klal Yisrael sinned, so they bring a parabal kol mitzvahs that needs smicha, v'sara mishtalech, and also the sar that's sent off the cliff on Yom Kippur, it also needs smicha by the Kohen Gadol. Reb Shimon Omer, af sirei avodah zarah, if Klal Yisrael unwittingly did a sin of idolatry and they brought a sirei avodah zarah, that also needed smicha. Kol karbanos hayachid tunin smicha. All private offerings need smicha. Again, chutz min ha-bechor, except for firstborn, v'maiser, and the animal tithe, where we give the 10th animal, v'pesach, and the korban pesach, v'yoreish soimech, if a father separated a animal for a korban and died, his ear does smicha, or maybe nesachim, and he brings libations, or meimer, and he could affect the tmura from the korban of his father. Of course, it's not allowed to affect the tmura, to make an exchange, but if he does, the exchange will go into effect. Hakol soimkin, everyone does smicha, chutz mecheres shoyte v'katan, except for a deaf mute, an imbecile, and a minor. Summa, one who is blind. We learned that out from a pasuk, that a blind person doesn't do smicha. V'oivik kacham, a guy, even though a guy could bring a korban, certain karbanos, but he doesn't do smicha. V'eved, or an eved kanani, because an eved kanani has the din like a woman, and a woman doesn't do slicha. V'ashliach, an agent that brings a korban, doesn't do smicha for the principal. Va'isha, and a woman. Now, usmicha shiorei mitzvahs. The procedure of smicha is only a remnant of the mitzvah. In other words, it's not from the ikar of the mitzvah. That means if you don't do smicha, it's not active. It doesn't invalidate the korban. It's done ala reish, on the head of the animal, b'shtei yadayim, with the two hands. Or b'makom shetzayimchim sheichtim, in the place where they do smicha, in the azara, we do the shchita. But take of the smicha shchita, and immediately following the smicha, they slaughter the animal. Now, certain korbanos need tnufa, need to be waved. So chaymer b'smicha me b'tnufa, there is stringencies of smicha over waving, or batrufa b'smicha, and the stringencies of waving over the leaning. She'echad meinif l'chol ha'chaverim, in the event that a korban is brought as a group, one of the members of the group could do the waving for the whole group. But ve'ein echad semich l'chol ha'chaverim, one cannot do smicha. Every member of the group has to do smicha. The chaymer b'tnufa, there is a stringency of the waving. There's waving by private carbon and by a communal carbon. When it's alive, there are certain karbanas that are done when it's alive. That's the Shnei Kifsei Atzeres, the 2 lambs of Atzeres, and the Asham of the Messiah, where waving is done when it's alive, and when it's slaughtered. Waving is done with that which is animated, with an animal parts, and also with things that don't have the breath of life. The loaves of the Taida and the Naz's offering, the loaves of the Naz's offering are waved, even though don't have the breath of life. By smicha, as we said, there's no smicha by a carbon sibber, usually, except for, we said 2 exceptions or 3, and there's only smicha by animated things. There's no smicha on anything but animals. And now we learn an incredible Gemara in Masechtas Menachos, an incredible piece of Gemara about the protection that is afforded by the mitzvahs that we do. This is an amazing Gemara. I made a bracha already, Rabbi Yisai. It's amazing Gemara from Masechtas Menachos. Tanya, Amar Reb Nassim, Ein lecha kol mitzvah kala sheksuva b'Torah. There isn't any even lenient mitzvah that's written in the Torah she'ein matan schara ba'olam hazeh, that there is not some sort of reward in this world. When we do a mitzvah, we get a praklit echad, we get a angel. It says Choyna Malach Hashem Savav Liyareya Vayechaltzein. So although schar mitzvah b'haya al maleka, there's no reward for mitzvah in this world because there's no bank big enough to cash the check of one mitzvah. However, l'olam haba eini yodea kama. And l'olam haba, when we get the full reward, we cannot fathom how much is the reward. Tzei lamad b'mitzvah tzitzis. Come and learn from the mitzvah of tzitzis. There was a man, he was very careful with tzitzis. He would never walk without tzitzis. He was very careful with tzitzis. He also had money, and he also had a lustful appetite. There was a legendary zayna, beautiful beyond imagination, on one of the islands. Her fee was 400 golden coins. It was enough to live a lifetime. He sent her 400 zuz, sent her 400 golden coins. He paid ahead, and he made an appointment. The Kabbalah's man. When it came his time, he came to the door. Her butler came. This man who reserved you for the 400 zuz, is sitting by the door. Amrahi Yekanish. She said, let him enter. Nichnas. He came. She made for him 7 beds. 7 beautiful beds. Shel kesef, 6 of silver. V'achas shel zav, and 1 of gold. Ubein kol achas v'achas sulam shel kesef. And going from one bed to the other was a ladder of silver. She was upping his anticipation. V'elyoyna shel zav, the upper bed had a ladder of gold. V'olsa v'yashva al gabi elyoyna kishi aruma, and she reclined on the upper bed unclothed. V'afu ala leishav arm connected. He climbed up, and he sat almost unclothed. He just had his tzitzis on. Bo arba tzitziyosov, his 4 tzitzis gathered together, v'topkulei al panav, and smacked him in the face. Nishmat, he slipped off the bed. V'yashav lo al gabe karka. This woman has never ever been rejected. Va'afi nishmata, she came down. V'yashva al gabe karka, and she sat with him. Amalai, she said to him, Gapa shel Romi, by the emperor of Rome. Rashi says, another pshat is by the deity of Rome. She'eni manichoscha, I'm not going to let you go. Achetaimali ma mumra isibi. What blemish did you see in me that caused you to not take me? Amalah ha'avoida, by the temple. Shaloyre isi ishi yofa kamaiseh, I never saw a more beautiful woman than you. El mitzvah achas tzivoni Hashem alikeinu, Hashem gave us a mitzvah. V'tzitzis shema, its name is tzitzis. V'kosaba, and it's written, Ani Hashem alikeichem, I am Hashem your God. Shnei pamim. Ani hu she'osed li para, I am Hashem who is going to punish. V'ani hu she'osed l'sham eschar, and I'm going to give reward. Achshav nidma like ha'ba'edim, when they hit me in the face, it appeared like 4 witnesses. I can't do this in front of the witnesses. Amrullah, so she said to him, Eini manichoscha, I'm not going to leave you. I'm not going to let you go. You tell me what your name is. Or Mashem Ircha, the name of your city. Or Mashem Rabcha, the name of your Rebbe. Or Mashem Midrashcha, and we you study. Mashem Midrashcha, Shatolama by Torah. So Kasam and Asam Yada, he wrote everything down, gave it to her. Amda v'chilka kol nechaser, she got up, she split all of her assets. Shlish l'malchus, she gave 1/3 to the emperor, so that they shouldn't be angry of her leaving. Shlish la'niyim, she gave 1/3 to the poor, or shlish not l'biyada, and 1/3 she took with her. Chutz me'aisam atzais, those sheets that she made, she took with her. Obasel Beis Midrash shel Rebbe Chia, his Rebbe was Rebbe Chia. She came to the Beis Midrash. Amalei Rebbe tzavei alai, instruct me v'yasuni giyaris, and make me a giyaris. Amalah biti shemei necha nasata be'echad ben atalmidim. Maybe you're doing it for not sincere reasons. Maybe you set your eyes on one of the young men. She took out the paper and told him the whole story, that she saw the miracle of the tzitzis, and she was impressed by the self-control, and she said, I want to join these people. Amallah, after teaching her, he said, L'chi zechi b'mikache. Go and acquire your purchase. You can marry him. Those beds that she made when they were aser, she made for him now when it was permissible. Now, this is the reward in this world. Reward in the next world, we have no idea how much it is. And now we learn the Zohar, which continues the idea that when we do vidui, we are giving, when we do our confession, we're giving the Satan his portion to satisfy him and to keep him at bay. Karbana Kula, when we bring an offering in the Beis Midrash, all of it, L'tzitra da chulaka de kutsha, goes all to the side of holiness. V'rei usa de kedusha, the kutsha, and its desire is to holiness. U'l'sitra da, the other side, what we call the sitra akra, hahu chulaka de inun, its portion is chayvin v'chatayin, it's our guilt and our sins. The is yehivu b'hayda alahud bisur de karbana, which we deliver when we confess and do the smicha that we just learned about on the meat of the carbon. Kamad siv, like it says, this is metaphorical. Imrov sainecha, if your enemy is hungry, hachileo lechem, give him bread. Ki gechalam atachayta al reisha, you're shoving coals on his head. V'simanech, we find an interesting thing. It says, Yavai hamelech v'haman el hamishta. Now we know that every time it says in the Megillah hamelech, it also refers to Hashem. So Yavai hamelech v'haman el hamishta. Let the king and Haman come to the Mishta. The Haman is allegorical for the Sitra Achra. So both the king and the Sitra Achra, Hashem and the Sitra Achra, enjoy the carbon. Zakah Iu, fortunate is the one, Mandi Yoda Orchei L'Mahach Ba'orech K'Shoit, one who knows to go in the proper way. The command Lo Yoda L'Sadra Shvacha Demare, if a person doesn't know how to arrange the praise of his creator, Tovlei de Lo Yivrei, would be better that he wouldn't be created. Begin the Itzrach Sloisa the Iu Shlama La'ela. We need a prayer that's complete to go above. Migav Machshava. Now we're going to see that prayer has 4 parts: thought, will. It's done with a desire, voice, and the pronouncing clearly the words. As it says, it should be migav machshava, with thought, proper concentration, reusa deliba, the desire of the heart. It should be done with a good will, v'kala, with a voice, omila desifavan, and the words should be articulated clearly. Now, to make perfection, tying, and unifications above. We will see, like it is above, for as the way we find that it showers blessing from above to below, so we have to do our part from below above, to make a unification which is proper. And now we're going to see what are the 4 parts of prayer over here. So Raza Lechavraya, this is a secret to the colleagues, the Yehachon Ba'orech Meisher, that walk in the straight path. Machshava, thought, it refers to the Midas HaChochma, to the Bechina of wisdom. While V'reusa, while the goodwill, it's coming from a goodwill, that refers to Midas HaBina, manifestation of Bina. The Kala, that refers to Zeranpin, the 6 spheres. The 6 spheres, of course, are Chesed and Gvura, Teferes, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. Omila, and the articulation, refers to the Midah of Malchus. Ilan Arba, these 4 parts of the prayer, Mikashrin, Kishrin, create ties, and the basar de kashiru kishrin kula kachada, when they're all tied together, is avidu kulu resicha chada. It makes a merkava, a chariot, la ashra alayu shchinta, to devolve upon it the shchina. Vis avidu kulu arba samchin, and it makes 4 supports, lis atrabahu, that a person could be crowned with. Ushchinta istemich alayu, and the shchina, that's the b'chinas of Malchus, istemich alayu b'chol ilun kishon ilan, with all of these ties. Now, of course, the esoteric meaning of this is beyond us, but we understand that we could accomplish these 4 components of tefillah, which again is machshava, concentration, reusa, that means to be happy, to want to daven. So we said that our davening shouldn't be a masli. It's, by the way, this is how our davening transcends the davening of the malachim. Because it says that the malach told Yaakov, Shalcheni, send me away, ki ola hashachar, And Rashi says, "V'tzorech ani lo meshira." I need to say song. A malach needs to do it. We want to do it. Now, a malach doesn't have a Yetzirah. We want to do it. That's the Re'usa. That's the desire, like we say in Kedusha. Pamayim b'yavo shma'imim. We say with love. That means we want to do it. And then there's the color, the voice, and then there's the chituch, the articulation. Now, the Zohar continues, machshava, which is, we said, the midah of chachma, ape kriusa. It goes to the midah of bina. Ruusa denafik migab machshava, and this bina that emanates from the midah of chachma, ape kolo de ishtama, it causes a kel, which we said is the zer anpin, is the manifestation of Kutcha Barichu. Vahus kala, and this kala solak l'kashrik sharon mitatoleila, it causes ties from below to above, the ishtama, which is heard. Heicholin tatoin bilain, the lower heicholais, which is the manifestation of Kutcha Barichu, is shente, to that which is above, which is the nistar of the chachma and bina. Kala di iu kasher ksharin, this is a voice that makes ties. Umashich birchan, and draws blessing. Me'ela lisata, from above to below. Belechishu, generated by the quiet tefillas of a person. Samach ilen arba samchen, supported by these four supports. Machshava, rusa, kala, umila. Smichu, this support, b'siyuma de kishura, with the conclusion of the unification, that's when everything is unified with the Midas HaMalchus, asa de kula iske shebei chada, the place where everything is tied up as one, vis avidu kulu chad, and it all becomes one. Zakol iu barnosh de kosher kisharon de mare. Fortunate is the human that makes these unifications, v'samach smichin k'dikayos, and makes the supports as is proper, v'ischaven b'chol hani milei dekarmen, and is able to concentrate on all of these. Zako iu b'hai alma, he is fortunate in this world, or ba'alma da'asi, and in the next world. And now we get down to much more practical advice from the Divrei Musar. If somebody is engaged in idle chatter. Now, idle chatter is chatter that has no meaningful purpose. It's not talking about speaking with your wife. That's very meaningful. That's a mitzvah d'oraisa. That's a haftarech kamecha. That's fulfilling your ksuva. Idle chatter isn't talking with a friend to cheer him up. That's, again, a mitzvah d'oraisa. Idle chatter is meaningless chatter. But that's a mitzvah saseh. What's the mitzvah saseh? You should speak about Torah. And they said about the great Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai and Rav, they never spoke idle chatter. While one word might be worth a seller, but mashtuka b'shtayim, to be quiet is double valuable. There's nothing more valuable than knowing how to be quiet. If a person sits solitary and quiet, he fills his mouth as if with earth, so he doesn't speak. Hashem will never forsake him. That's the end of the pasuk. How dangerous are words? Death and life is in the hands of the tongue. We could do terrible things with lashon hara and rechilas and nivul peh. and Gilui Sod, revealing secrets, and Sheker, and Oinas Devarim. Rabbi Sena Zichron Livracha said, of Amra Rabbi Sena Zichron Livracha, rabbis of blessed memory, he said, Siog L'chachma, a fence that protects wisdom, is shtika, is silence. V'amar Shlomo, al taval al picha, do not be hasty with your mouth. V'libchal yamar lo hitzi davar lifnei alikim, your heart should not quickly say words before God. Ki alikim b'shamayim, Hashem is in heaven, v'ata la'artz, al kein yu dvarecha ma'atim, your words should be few and thought of. Ramila said that his Rebbe, which I found out was referring to Rav Isaac Sher, never said a word from his mouth before thinking first. Rabbi Sena Zichron Livracha, our rabbis of blessed them, he said, this is a famous Gemara, Ha'umnan elam, in truth mute, tzedek tedaberim, speak righteousness. So we learn out umnan is similar to umnus. What should be a person's profession in this world? You'll say, what do you mean? Profession. Some people are plumbers, some people are tailors, some people are doctors, some people are lawyers, some people are carpenters. No, everybody should have this profession. Yosim atzma ilang. He should be a professional at closing his mouth, at zipping it. Now, a profession, you have to study. You have to train. Zipping it, not needing to have the last word. Not saying that zinger. Not retorting even though the person was not nice. That should be a profession. Rabbi saying is in front of Livracha, Rebbe, Kadavi Mati Haikra, when he reached this pasuk, Kavibachi. Kihine Yoitzer Harim, Hashem created the mountains, of Varei Ruach, he created the winds. Omagid la'odam ma'aseicha, and he will tell a person about his speech. Sicha, afilu sicha kalash odam ma'asiach v'mishtay. Even the casual chatter with a wife. Asid liten aleh sadin. Hashem listens to everything we do. With a wife, it's easy to be cavalier and to say something hurtful. Hashem listens to everything. Hashem yatzilenu. Hashem should save us from such mistakes. Amen ken yiratzon. And now we learn, the Rambam continues with the dinim of Shemona Esrei. Mishiva yomim b'Marcheshvan, from the 7th day of Marcheshvan, shoylin es a geshamim b'birchas hashanim. We say the same talamata levracha in birchas hashanim. Kol zman shemasker geshem. As long as we say Mashav Ruach, so from the 7th of Marcheshvan we start saying the same talamata levracha. But that's only by Medvar Mamun Be'eretz Yisrael. Aval b'Shinner in Bavel or b'Surya, and the areas like Aram Tzova and Aram Naharayim, or b'Mekaymis HaSmuchas Leilu, and places near that. V'Adaymin Lahem Shoylin Es HaGeshamim, we ask for the rain. B'Yom Shishim Achar Tkuvas Tishrei, 60 days after the autumnal equinox or fall equinox. Now, what about places where they need rain in the summer? There are places on the globe where they need rain in the summer. Like the distant islands. They ask for rain in the time that they need it, but there they insert it b'shemei tefillah. A place in the diaspora where they have 2 days Yom Tov. They say Mashav Ruach or Morid HaGeshem in the tefillah of Musaf Shal Yom Rishon Shal Shmini Atzeres, of the first day of Shmini Atzeres. That's when we bench Geshem. Or Mispal V'Haylech, and they continue saying Mashav Ruach or Morid HaGeshem Kol Yemaisa Geshamim, all the time of the rain season. We want to thank everybody for joining us and have a wonderful evening.